Breaking news. Things are heating up behind the scenes with the Detroit Lions, and I've got something really important to share with you. We all know that our general manager, Brad Holmes, is determined to keep this team competitive and push us closer to a Super Bowl, but at the same time, there are still a few issues the Lions need to sort out within the roster. I'll break down everything I've learned over the past few hours. But first, make sure you hit that like button. But only do it if you truly believe that Holmes knows exactly what he's doing and that he can lead us all the way to the big stage. Man, I believe in this so much. And if you believe too, drop it in the comments. One pride. We're going to the Super Bowl. Now I need your full attention. Let's get into it. What if I told you that as strong and deep as this Detroit Lions roster looks right now, some names you've come to know, respect, maybe even root for, could be walking out the door before the season officially kicks off? That's the reality we're facing as training camp winds down and final roster cuts get closer. And believe me, it's not going to be easy. Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes have built one of the most competitive rosters Detroit has seen in years. And the cruel truth of that success is this: good players are going to be left off the 53-man roster. Fans will be shocked, and in some cases maybe even frustrated. But this is the business of football when you're chasing a Super Bowl. Let's start with a name that already has people buzzing: Tim Patrick. Now remember, Detroit brought him in last year, and his veteran presence gave the wide receiver group some balance. But here's the twist. The emergence of Isaac Tesla, Dominic Love, and Jackson Meeks has completely changed the conversation. Tesla, especially, is earning real trust from the coaching staff. He's been lining up in that number 3 role and looking like he belongs right alongside the top guys. That's why, as crazy as it sounds, Tim Patrick could suddenly become expendable. Does that sting to hear? Of course. He's a proven veteran. But when younger, cheaper talent starts pushing their way up the depth chart, tough calls have to be made. That's why Patrick lands on the surprise cut list. Another player who always seems to sit in this uncomfortable bubble is Craig Reynolds. Every year the whispers are the same: he might not make it. And every year he finds a way to stick around. The guy has been reliable as a number 3 running back, producing whenever called upon, and fans respect him for that. Still, Jacob Sailors has flashed enough this camp to raise eyebrows. The question becomes, is Sailors' upside more appealing than what we already know Reynolds brings? Personally, I think it'd be shocking to move on from Reynolds when the Lions are in win-now mode. He's dependable, he knows the system, and that counts for a lot. But again, this roster is deep, and someone has to go. On the flip side, not every
name sparks debate. Some players feel like absolute roster locks already. Take Rakim, for instance. With Dennis Rakestraw lost for the year, Rakim stepped up and played lights out during the preseason. Hard hits, solid coverage. He's proven himself as the kind of guy you trust when injuries pile up. That's what makes him so valuable. He's like your insurance policy, the Kindle Wilder type you feel comfortable throwing out there in a pinch. And then there's Grant Stewart. Talk about an under-the-radar free agent gem. He's been a heat-seeking missile on defense, flying sideline to sideline, and even contributing on special teams. He's versatile, dependable, and Dan Campbell loves guys like that. Stewart isn't going anywhere. But if Rakim and Stewart are cementing their roles, players like Broderick Martin are moving in the opposite direction. Martin has just not shown enough, and when you consider how stacked Detroit is at defensive tackle, it's hard to see him carving out a role. One decent preseason outing isn't enough when others are bringing more consistency to the table. The same could be said for Jamarco Jones. With a line that features guys like Giovanni Manu, Penei Sewell, Taylor Decker, and Dan Skipper, Jones just feels like the odd man out. Jacob Sailors, as I mentioned earlier, is another fascinating case. He's had a strong camp and shown flashes that make you think he could fit somewhere in the league. Maybe Dallas, where they're thin at running back, takes a shot. But if not, the Lions might stash him on the practice squad. And that's not a bad outcome at all, keeping him close, letting him continue to develop, and having that emergency option ready when needed. Then you've got Mitchell Ogwe. Honestly, it wouldn't shock anyone if he's cut. Injuries along the defensive line have opened opportunities, but Isaac Uku has outperformed him. 2 sacks in the preseason, plus the unfortunate loss of Hosenine for the season, makes Uku the guy you'd expect to get the nod. Unless Brad Holmes pulls the trigger on a veteran signing like Zadarius Smith, it feels like Uku has a path onto the roster, while Ogwe may be on the way out. The offensive line shuffle also brings Kingsley Agwin into the spotlight. With center depth already thinned out, Agwin's value has quietly gone up. When Graham Glasgow is your main guy in the middle, you need a reliable backup, and Agwin has been filling that spot. Cutting him would be risky, unless Detroit finds another option from cuts around the league. For now, he looks safe. Now here's the part that's going to stir real debate. Hendon Hooker. Yes, you heard that right. Some people are bracing for it, others think it's impossible, but the reality is Hooker has struggled badly. He hasn't looked like the quarterback of the future many hoped he'd become. Worse, he seems to have regressed, while Kyle Allen has looked sharper in camp and preseason. Hooker just doesn't have the confidence, the spark, the edge you need in this league. Would it shock casual fans if the Lions pulled the plug? Absolutely. Would it shock the diehards who have been watching closely? Maybe not. Sometimes the tape tells you all you need to know. At wide receiver, things are equally complicated. Dominic Love and Jackson Meeks both deserve roster spots. They've earned it. The problem? There might not be enough chairs when the music stops. Detroit usually keeps 5 or 6 receivers. Some people are whispering about keeping 7, but that's a luxury. Cutting someone like Love would definitely sting. He's liked by fans, he's produced, he's done everything asked. But again, the numbers game is brutal. The tight end room is another area where a surprise could pop up. Sam Laporta and Brock Wright are locked in, no questions asked. But Shane Zylstra? That's where it gets tricky. He's played well enough to make the roster, but depth beyond him isn't strong. Letting him go would be a real surprise, and it feels like the Lions will ultimately keep him. Still, the conversation is happening. And don't forget about Khalil Dorsey. Injuries have slowed him, but when he's on the field, he's been versatile, contributing on special teams and in the secondary. Fans may not see his name in headlines, but inside the building, coaches know his value. That's why cutting him would feel shocking, especially with how strong Detroit's cornerback group has been this preseason. Depth is great, but versatility is gold, and Dorsey offers plenty of it. So here's the bottom line. The Lions are in a position we've all dreamed about, loaded with talent, fighting for spots, and forcing the front office into tough decisions. That's what a winning program looks like. But as cuts come down, beloved veterans, exciting young players, even high draft picks could be gone. And that's where I turn it over to you, because this isn't just about the front office, it's about the fan base too. Which potential cut would shock you the most? Would losing a veteran like Tim Patrick sting more, or would moving on from Hendon Hooker feel like giving up too soon? Drop your thoughts. Lions Nation, I want to hear who you think will survive this roster crunch and who won't. And the truth is, Lions fans, this is the kind of conversation that separates average teams from true contenders. When you're in the thick of building something special, something that looks capable of competing for a Lombardi, there's no such thing as easy choices. Every cut comes with weight. Every roster spot represents not just a player, but an investment in the future of this franchise. And right now, Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell are making those decisions with one goal in mind, winning it all. Think about how far we've come. Not too long ago, this team was searching for answers, patching holes, and leaning on players who were simply filling time. Fast forward to today, and you've got a roster so stacked that players with legitimate talent, players who could start elsewhere, might not make the cut in Detroit. That's not a problem, that's a luxury. But it's a luxury that forces brutal decisions. Let's circle back to the wide receiver group, because this is one of the most competitive units in camp. Isaac